Hello, Team Flushable Pads. It's your boy Will, cheerleader and theoretical mentor and worst enemy and lecturer. Congratulations on a really good assignment. Overall, it's great. You got a really good mark. You addressed the rubric well, blah, blah, blah. Well done. The feedback I'm going to give you today, I'm not going to go through the rubric point by point or whatever. I'm going to give you three things today. One is from a business perspective, what do I think and feel about the canvas and the work so far? This is kind of what's the good, what's the bad, what did you miss? From the point of view of a mentor or early stage business advisor that wants you to succeed. That's kind of the point of view I'm bringing. From there, I'd like to talk a bit about should you work on this next semester? Because that's probably the question you're asking yourselves, and you may have already come to a conclusion. And if you do want to work on this next, what can you then do about it? What is next? So first up, I'm just going to do that thing where I narrate my thoughts and feelings as I go through this report. I've already done some reading and I've looked through some of your extra links and stuff. Super good. The canvas. Let's look at the canvas. When I first look at this, I was like, Australian backpackers who menstruate, who don't have a bin to dispose of, they use sanitary pads. And I was like, what, is this people that are backpacking in Australia and I'm going to sell to them in Australia? Or is this Australian backpackers who are buying a whole bunch of pads and taking them overseas with them? And I got a bit confused. But I get the point of it, right? You're focusing on backpackers because they're less likely to be at a business that's got a sanitary disposal. I get it. It makes sense. I can see how this is the V1. And in V2, you might look at women in different situations. The thing I like about this the most is that it allows you to be very specific about your channels, and that's awesome. One thing that is lovely about this canvas is that it's so freaking simple. It's like, if you can do flushable winged pads, you win, just like that mob from the UK. And if you can't do this, you lose. And you can patent it. Or you can be the first people that did it, and that's awesome. So I think that that's very good. Very, very simple and clear. I actually think that your key metrics could do with a bit of work on this. So yes, percentage growth of sales per month I think is really important. But I'd be interested to see a bit more insight into what are the levers that are going to make this business grow or work. And to me, it seems like one of them is getting people to change from their existing purchasing habits to new habits. Almost like cigarettes or something, or milk, where people are generally really set in their ways. I noticed in some of your customer discovery, people were like, I don't even look at what's on the shelf, I just buy what I'm used to. And so I'd be interested to see a key metric that is how good are we at converting people from their existing choices to the new choices? If you think of another sanitary brand Who Gives a Crap, an important thing for them is getting people to move from their existing behavior to new behavior. The other thing that kind of tripped me up and might trip you up, and this is super normal for early stage, first lean canvases, by the way, is that this looks a bit shunky. Your revenue and your cost structures looks a bit shunky. So costs for making a website or app and branding, to me, these are fixed costs, right? These you're doing advertising on and on and on, right? Your website and your app is advertising. So because you have this challenge of convincing people who are already set in their way and have their favorite pad to change to yours, you've got the Instagram ads and you've got airport bathroom advertisements. I have no idea how expensive they are. They're probably crazy. But then you also have this thing of a grassroots company that has a really, really shit hot digital presence. At which point branding and website, I think, are just ongoing costs. And that'd actually be a remarkably high cost overall. The R&D, I think, is the only real capital cost that matters in this business. And one thing that I'm missing in this is is this 90% of our costs is in R&D, or is it that actually the R&D bit is really easy and the rest of our costs are where the real pain is? So maybe a spreadsheet would really help for this, of going where do we think the actual costs are? I also, again, personal preference, I don't really see the point of donating to charity. I can see that you put it as like a UVP sort of down the line, but I don't know, right? I think it's like if the product that you're doing has no benefit already, then donating to charity makes sense. You know, think of like Thank You Water. They sell bottled water. Like it's a really profoundly unethical thing to sell, but they can kind of get away with it because 100% of their profits go somewhere. They're basically just like shuffling money from the rich to the poor. That's kind of the theory. Whereas with this, as a mentor and investor, I'd be like, I don't want you to spend that 50% of profits on somebody else. I want you to turn every single pad on the planet into a biodegradable or flushable pad. That's it. You know, it's like Tesla don't share their profits, right? They reinvest them in the business and they give them to shareholders because they want to shift the entire market towards electric vehicles. If your idea is good enough that we want all of them to do it, we're then in this kind of more interesting game where it's like, I would want every single bit of energy to be put into making the business succeed and making the business grow like crazy, not like shuffling away money to somebody else. I know that this is a good idea and it kind of makes sense, but I don't know. I'm a bit funny about it. You know, like the technical problem is hard enough as is. Are you also going to add managing a charity partner at the same time? I don't know. I mean, it's up to you, right? Okay, so this confused me a bit as well because it's like you're doing kind of unit economics annually to a total of 13k, whereas over here this is a lot more than 13k worth of stuff. You know, is this $100,000 worth of R&D or is it $2 million or something? And if you're going to only make 13k, like that's barely minimum wage for one person. So I don't know. But overall, I think it's a really good idea, and I think the canvas makes a lot of sense. And getting the numbers down here is like not wrong, but like them being confusing, I don't think is a super big deal. It's obvious though that your entire idea hinges upon the actual technology. And let me jump to another thing. This prototype this is 20 seconds of gold. This taught me more about your business than almost anything else. And I found it really interesting when I went and looked at Polypop, which I think you rightly identified as like the only company that matters in this. I couldn't actually see anything about the pad itself. I don't know if you found anything, but I found some like pretty booklets and where's the pad? Show me the pad. Because if you can get away with doing this, I mean, it's like, did you show this video to people and get their feelings on it? Because this is magic. I'd be really interested to see if you can make it that simple, and if you can make the experience for somebody pulling it off, throwing it in the toilet, I don't know, maybe like that thing from the 70s that you looked up, pulling it off starts the process that makes it fall to pieces and decompose. I don't know. So whatever you can do to make it pass whatever Australian law there is around flushing this stuff, it could be super magical. I really like this. This made me really happy. Hold on. Let me pull up your document again. So, one little side point on this, by the way. You can hack your lecturer, Will, by having pretty branding. An interesting thing is every single team I've seen that has done a sanitary product in every hackathon or GC class or whatever, they generally do really nice branding. You often have, I noticed it down here, like this very inclusive style where you've got kind of relatively generic drawings of multinational people. I don't know why this seems to come out every single time somebody does a menstruation brand, but great. Super good. You did a lot of tests, and that made me really happy. One interesting thing when I was looking through your tests, I feel like you did some good tests, but I feel like you could possibly do faster tests. So I like that these were all an hour, and I like that you got failure results in some of them. But did you speak to Polypop? Sorry if I misread it because it's a really long thing and I have a short attention span, but did you contact Polypop to see what they thought? Like, maybe your business is helping them get into Melbourne, or maybe you can like make friends with them because they're probably dealing with enough shit in London getting their product up without thinking about exploring Australia or whatever else. So it's like contacting them takes 5 minutes, and that would be a much better test, possibly, than many others. Which kind of takes us to what could you do next semester if you wanted to keep working on this idea? So to sum up, good research, good tests overall, I think. The money is the real trick. Sorry, one point on this. I feel like your emails are super weak. I think you could have done this a lot better. So this kind of thing is sort of, I'm not surprised that you didn't get any responses from anybody. Like manufacturing the info at, or the like generic front desk email of a company gets you almost nowhere. A better way to do the same thing would be to find individual humans on LinkedIn, or like calling people up and just asking them for help. Emailing companies and saying like, hey, I want you to put heaps of effort into giving me this information that I'm too lazy to get for myself. That's how it's perceived. Tricky. I feel like you did this again later on when I looked at it. Sorry. Is it this one? Yes. So supplier inquiries at Aldi. You know, you're not going to get anywhere with this stuff. There's probably a big challenge in this company, which is like finding an individual human at an individual supplier or customer that would be willing to help you. I'm not sure how I feel about the fact that you are like aiming for really big suppliers. I would recommend looking up the Thank You Water story on how they first got into 7-Eleven, because it was a coup and it was really freaking hard to do. And like they got intros to get into 7-Elevens and then eventually Coles. Whereas if you look at a brand like Who Gives a Crap, I think they're in like AGI supermarkets, but you can't get it in Woolies and Coles because they've decided to go the direct-to-consumer via a website route. So strategically for this business, you've got a really hard technical problem. Going direct to Coles and Woolies might not be the best bet. At which point, I'd be interested in seeing a test or some ideas around how would we sell direct to consumer. And I can see that some of your competitors do this with like their monthly subscriptions, etc., etc. Anyway, so enough critique of this. Overall, I think it's really good. You did a great job. I love the branding. Branding makes me really happy. This is awesome. Should you do this next semester? That's the big question. Yes and no. Okay, so obviously the only correct answer to should you do this next semester is, do you want to do it next semester? And if you want to do it next semester, you should. If you don't, you shouldn't. Like, that's really easy. But because I can't answer that for you, let me just give you my kind of shitty 35-year-old male perspective on a feminine hygiene product that I know nothing about. If the technical problem in this is going to be really hard, it might be super demotivating. You know, if this is a business that's going to take 2 to 3 years to get off the ground, how much you can do on that business without actually having the product in 12 weeks, I don't know, right? It might be super demotivating to work on something that's going to take so long to solve the technical problems. On the flip side, the reasons why I would want to work on this business is that it's a real, like, it has only one part of it that matters, the flushability. And if you can solve that interesting technical problem, you've got something on your hands. The nice thing about it as well is that I would be thinking about the different kinds of exits from this company right up front, which is the way that I would think about, should I work on it from scratch? Let me just explain that. So the different kind of exits a company like this would take are manyfold. There's a few options. So one exit is to not exit. And this is where you all quit your uni job like degrees because you are loving this business so much and you're making sales and you're solving the technical problems, you get some investment, and then you just never sell the company. And for the rest of your life, you are selling this product and working on this product. That's got its pros and cons. Another option for exit is that you just make a company that's worth money. You know, you're selling however many hundreds of thousands of dollars of product per month, and somebody goes, I want to make that money, and then they give you a couple of $1,000,000 to buy your company. That's one exit. Another exit to this company would be an acqui-hire, which is where you continue to work on this through your university, for example, like through your university life. And by the time you're 25 or something like that, it's like you've got a small business that's ticking over some sales, but it never really gets there. Like you never really get past the prototype stage, at which point you turn around to some big sanitary brand and be like, hey, we are willing to give you our brand, give you our customers, and give you our talent if you let us work on this project within your business for the next 3 years. Acqui-hire means that it's an acquisition as a hiring strategy. So this is where like tech products will be bought by Google, and then a year later, Google just sells the product that this tiny company used to make, except it's now under the Google brand. So an acqui-hire actually could be a really fun way to invest time in this that then leads to a job at a company that's interesting. So that's another exit. The last exit that I would think about if I was thinking about this company is like, what's the fastest way we could make this valuable to ourselves and then bail on it? So this might actually be that it's like, well, we're going to try and focus some of our, like, I don't know, our honors year research around flushability more generally, and we're going to end up becoming like experts on septic systems and how city water works. And if that's super interesting to you, then working on this business is not a waste of energy. And I think maybe that's a useful way for you all to think about, should we be working on this next semester? Is where is it most likely to end up? And is that reality where it ends up something where we would be happy? The alternative to that is that you just don't care at all about this problem, but you're working on it because it might make money. That to me is like alarm bells for you shouldn't work on this idea. Yeah, let me make sure I haven't missed anything. The canvas is really good. Your numbers are funky, and I'd like to work with you on your numbers if you're serious about working on this. I just love this prototype. You know, it's like custom discovery is great, and talking to people is great, and testing numbers is great, but making a thing, amazing. I'm going to show this to my girlfriend and see what she thinks, because it's cool. Yeah, you did some numbers and that's great, but numbers are always wrong and that's okay. And you got some really clear results from your tests and that's great, but they'll all change in a few months. Yeah, good work. Really good work. If you decide you want to work on this next semester, I would back that 100%. I think it's really cool. I think you're all really cool. I think the branding is great. You put a lot of work into this from what I can see, and I really appreciate that. Final thought, who could we get to help you? I think that's another useful question to ask. One, what's the exit? Where does this end up? And is it worth the effort? Point two, who can help us? You know, what research lab, organization, like who is willing to throw a couple of $100,000 at the R&D for this, knowing that it might fail because like a group of 6 plucky students decided they wanted to do a crazy idea. I think that's a really useful question to think about. And then if you decide to work on this next semester, who's going to help? Which organization, which individual, which investor, which research group, which other university, which UK company, who's going to help you? Because this is too big to do alone. But I don't think I'll speak to you until next semester at this rate, because that's the thing. And hopefully it'll be in person if we're lucky with COVID. So anyway, have a great time. I've ranted long enough. Hopefully you watch this at 2x speed so I don't waste your time. I hope you have a really great time doing whatever you're doing now, and I will see you soon. Bye!